Hello, Podsmashers of the internet.
And welcome to another episode of
80-Bit Podsmash,
where gaming goes to grab a beer.
We're your hosts, Penguin and Termite.
And for those of you who don't know, 80-Bit Podsmash is a weekly podcast about video games, culture, and we smash all of these ideas of the things that we love together, and we talk to you guys about the things we love.
Yeah, that was like a well-oiled machine that time.
We're getting there.
Nice. We keep trying to add or change things to the opening. You keep it fresh. Try to see what works, what doesn't work, what we like, what we don't like. And so every time we make a change, it always gets all mixified, and we have to stumble through it a couple times. But that one went off without a hitch.
And if you like us so much, you want to give us any kind of feedback or any engage with us online, we are on Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, all as 80-Bit Podsmash. And our landing website, 80bitpodsmash.com, has Google Play and iTunes links for you to subscribe easily. Please like and subscribe us on iTunes and write a review. Actually, write some words and give us a star rating, because that's the number one way we can be exposed to the world of the internet.
Yay! That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Cool.
Now we got all that housekeeping out of the way.
Yeah, I'm sure you guys are already sick of us talking about Ready Player One after the episode we did on it and the bonus content we did on it, but I want to start off by saying, and this is probably the last thing I say about it for a while, and that is I saw it again with my wife because she hadn't seen it. We went to go see, Termite and I went to go see it together as a friend date with another dude friend.
You just made it sound like I was your wife.
I know, it was great. My
almost
actual wife and I went to go see it because she hadn't seen it yet. And I have to say, I liked it much better the second time. And I explained this to you the other day. I think the reasoning is the same reason why I like the Lord of the Rings movies so much more now than when I first watched them. When I first watched them, I had been comparing them to the books. I had just read the books. Literally, one of my teachers dared me to read all 3 books before the movies came out, and so I did. I binged them, and I was a middle schooler.
Dang.
So I crushed those books.
That's strong.
And he gave me money. Yeah, I was just comparing them to the books
because you just read them.
Because I just read them.
Yep.
So. But now I appreciate the movies more because I don't want to go back and read Tolkien. I don't want to go slog through Tolkien for hours. So I like the movies because they check off that box. They give that fix, and they're just such good movies.
They really are.
That appreciate them a lot more. So I think it's not quite the same because Lord of the Rings is just better than Ready Player One. That's an objective fact that I have no problem saying with certainty. But I appreciate the movie more now that I kind of am not. When I went in, I knew what to expect. I wasn't comparing it to the book.
Yeah.
The criticisms I have are still, I think, valid that I pointed out in our bonus review content episode. But I can say that I appreciated it more this time. It was fun.
And that's what I was doing the first time I watched it, too.
Yeah.
I was trying to just make it... I was trying actively not compare it to the book.
Well.
To make it... This is a movie. A lot of people haven't read the book. They're not going to, so how is this as a movie? Anyway.
I'm never going to be able to do that.
Go back, Go back and listen to our bonus
yeah.
content. We reviewed the whole thing in 15 minutes or so, and it was a good discussion. So
yeah,
it's good.
Good. Cool. How is everything else going with you today?
I ran a race on Sunday. It was a duathlon.
Okay.
And a coworker of mine, if he listens, Scott, what's up? He is a mountain biker. And so he rides through the trails local here. And the duathlon is supposed to be a run followed by a bike followed by a run again.
Okay.
So you run twice, bike once. And we did it as a team. So I ran the running legs and he did the biking leg.
Gotcha.
And I didn't know what to expect. I'm not a trail runner. I was very new to these trails. There's twists, turns, dips, and hills, and the craziness. There's a million ways to get lost. And it was kind of just I have a marathon coming up and I don't want to injure myself. So yeah. I also said that in advance, I'm not going to risk that marathon. Right. I've been training since January for. So low expectations here. Well, we came in first place.
Nice.
We actually won the team side of we were the fastest team.
Yeah.
Third place overall. Only 2 guys beat us, and they were on their own.
Cool.
They did the whole thing by themselves while we were a team. So,
wow, yeah.
Yeah. It was awesome.
Cool. Congratulations.
Thanks.
On crushing it. Well, let's do favorite things. Yay! Doing this podcast is our favorite thing. Doing this podcast is our favorite thing. Yay! What's your favorite thing for the week?
Cereal.
Ooh.
I love cereal. It's
You're talking about the food, not the podcast.
How can a podcast be cereal?
There's a podcast that's titled Cereal.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
No, I wasn't even aware. No, I'm talking about food.
It's the podcast. It's the
Oh, yeah?
Definitive. It's like what made podcasts popular. Yeah.
Wow, I should educate myself.
You should. It's good.
I really should.
I liked it. Sorry. Food.
So we try to eat healthy and crap around the house, and so we don't keep junk food around. We don't have chips and snacks and crackers and like stuff. So if I ever like just want to grab a handful of something and chew on it in my house, it's cereal. Like that's the go-to. It's right there on the counter. Just reach in and grab a handful and go. And there's so many different kinds, and they're just delicious. And I love cereal. I even had that Mario Odyssey cereal I found.
Oh, yeah.
It was like an amiibo built into the box.
Mm-hmm.
So I scanned that in, and it doesn't do anything but unveil where a moon is on the map, just like all the rest. Yeah, there's like, and it's called a delicious amiibo. And I'm like, oh, okay. That's all it says. Like,
gotcha.
It's very shallow. But the cereal was awesome. It's like it was like Lucky Charms on crack.
I love Lucky Charms.
Yeah.
Can't speak for crack personally, but
no, I can't either. I don't know.
My favorite thing is some friends of ours. We all got together on Thursday and went to an escape room.
Ooh.
It was not the first time I've been to an escape room, but it was the best escape room I've done. We're actually beta testing this room for some friends of our friend Matt. So we got to go for free because we were testing. It was like the room had been open for about a month, but they were testing the like challenge mode. So it was like 45 minutes. We only got 3 clues, and it was some of the clues or some of the puzzles were harder.
Yeah,
and it was a blast.
Did you win?
We only lost by 10 minutes. So they had to give us 10 extra minutes, and they had to give us 1 extra clue. But it was a test. Like they were testing it, so
they might relieve.
There was
or reduce the difficulty a little bit.
Well, yeah. At least our feedback, our way through it was like I'm hoping helpful for them.
Yeah.
And hopefully tweaking it before they go launch with it. So yeah, we had to have some help, but it was still very fun. It was very awesome. So for those people who are in or around Fredericksburg, I'll give them a shout out because it was such a good time. It's called Connect Games Escape Room. It's in downtown Fredericksburg. Really cool. Check it out if you're in the area.
What street?
On Caroline Street.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow, really?
So it's just down the road from Capitol House and some of those other places bars and stuff downtown. So if you go get some drinks, go do an escape room. It's a really good time.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah, it was very fun. I like puzzles. I like puzzles a lot.
Yeah.
We'll actually talk about that in today's episode, which is about fan theories, which are like puzzles.
I had no idea what it was about. You looked at me and like,
yeah,
you wanted
I know.
Me to say
I was like,
it, are you here?
was.
I was miles away.
You're like, things. Fan theories are like giant puzzles themselves. So we'll talk more about that. But before we do, we're going to update you on our next segment, which is, what are you playing?
What am I playing?
Are you playing?
It's just like James Jackson Cameron, who did Lord of the Rings.
Yes, that. I hate you so much.
I am currently playing A Way Out with my brother.
Okay.
You have to play the game co-op.
Yeah.
So you can't play it single player at all, which is cool and new. No one's ever done a game like that before. And the fact that like action is happening on both sides of the screen that is relevant to the game is really cool because you're kind of like focusing on what you're doing, but at the same time you have like your peripherals kind of distracted by what's going on the other player's screen. So it's not like knock your socks off, amazing, everyone has to play this game. It cost me $20,
right?
And it's totally worth that.
Nice.
It's a good story and it's fun.
Cool.
But it's not like once I get to platinum, I think I can play through it with anyone. I'll always be willing to play through it with friends, which is cool because the couch co-op aspect of it, it's not bad. So like, I'll always be willing to try it more with different people and just see how you work together. I'm surprised by the level of communication you have to do outside of the game to like work things out.
Yeah.
And so that's cool. I like that because it's like forcing you to interact. You're not just like in a daze in there. So
cool.
Yeah.
Great. I am playing The Last of Us, the remastered version for PS4 that I'm borrowing from our friend Termite here. So finally picking up what I am told is probably the best game that came out for the PlayStation 3.
Yep.
2 episodes ago, we talked about The Last of Us in our episode about strong female protagonists, bringing up the character Ellie. I don't know. I haven't finished the game yet, so I don't, again, I don't have a holistic viewpoint, but I'm almost feeling like I should redact my statements about Ellie being not a strong female protagonist.
Yeah.
From that episode that we talked about it, because thus far it was a circumstance where I had read about it but hadn't actually played the game, and probably should refrain from commenting about games I haven't played until I actually play them. I don't know. We'll see.
Are you eating your toes? Is that what's going on?
Am I foot in my mouth? Foot and mouth syndrome. I don't know. We'll see. Because I still, like I said, I have to finish the game. So whatever I read, there was some commentary that whatever I read, that commentary is probably still very likely valid. I thought that it happened way sooner in the game. Mm-hmm. What I imagine happening in the story that I guess I'd read or gotten some impression of somewhere, I thought happened like way at the beginning. But no, as of right now, I'm like, oh no, she's a tough nut, cool, interesting little girl with spunky personality that's
she doesn't take crap from anyone.
Yeah, I really like Ellie a lot, and I'm like, we'll see where this goes.
You can't give it back to me until you play the DLC, which fleshes out her, because it is a prequel. It's really short. It's 2 hours long or something, but it's a 2 hour like prequel story about Ellie specifically because Joel's not even in it.
Yeah, okay.
And you have to play that too.
All right, really I'll check it out.
And I cannot wait for you to get to the ending. You have to Marco Polo me immediately upon finishing the game with your reactions.
Okay, all right.
We'll use those on the podcast to talk about how
just gonna like hold it up to the screen and play it.
We can do that, or we can at least have it in our brain so you like can remember how you felt.
Yeah, awesome, cool. Well, that's what we are. Am I playing?
Sure.
What'd you learn? We need like an intro and outro for that, so I'm just workshopping right now.
All right,
I'm just workshopping. I literally wrote it down in our notes as, what are ya playing? So.
What are you playing?
What are you playing?
What you playing?
What you playing?
What you playing, man?
So that concludes that segment, and now we shall move on to our final segment before talking about fan theories for you today. DLC. Downloadable content. For those of you who are just joining us for the first time, is a segment where we like to have a mini discussion, a sub-discussion, just a little fun game that we play before we start our main topic. So it's always a question that we come up with beforehand, and so today we are going to talk about what would you do if you were to take a character from a video game and make another video game that is of a different genre with that character.
Genre swapping.
Yeah, we're going to genre bend some characters, but the gimmick is that we're going to pick video game characters for each other. So it's going to be completely off the cuff, no preparation ahead of time.
Yeah.
So I'm going to pick a video game for Termite. He's going to have to take that character from that video game, and he's going to have to make another video game out of it that is of a different genre, and vice versa.
Yes.
So, your character, Termite,
lay it on me,
is going to be Falco from Star Fox.
Ooh.
If you had to take Falco and make a game, it can't be a space shooter.
Yeah.
Space shooting.
So I'm going to make a
game.
Rareware platformer where you open world explore and collectathon, and it's kind of linear. They did that. Star Fox Adventures.
Yeah.
I love that game. It's amazing. I just wanted to give it a reference. Anyway, Falco from Star Fox.
So wait, you're not doing that?
No.
Okay, gotcha.
No. I'm actually thinking of...
I know what I would do with Falco.
I would do a turn-based 8-bit RPG.
Interesting.
With Falco.
Leading with Falco.
Fully explaining where he came from, who he is.
Like
it starts out by himself.
Oh,
and then at some point you'll get to like maybe I'm assuming he goes through an academy to learn how to fly, so like maybe it's his like progress through the academy with some co-pilots, some old friends. I know he's got history with the girl Katrina from Final Fantasy, or from, I'm sorry, that's on my brain because that's the genre of the game. Star Fox 64, like Cat, I think is her name. Cat. Like he has history with her, but we don't really know what that is.
Right.
So, like maybe it's an academy buddy, and so the opportunity to like explore all of that and have different types of what gear, or maybe even outfitting a ship that could be used in like instead of a live action like flight game like Star Fox, it would be a turn-based thing where it looks like Galaga, like that'd be sweet.
I was thinking, just sorry, because what came to mind when I said it, like of a different genre, I was thinking doing like a first-person shooter like Far Cry style, where it's like kind of gritty, darker than your typical Star Fox, but like your Falco, and same thing, like your backstory, but you're on like, you can go to different planets, so it's kind of open world, you can go to different planets and stuff. Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. Sorry, go on, now hit me with one.
Dante from Devil May Cry.
Alright, Dante, and it's not, I would take Dante, and I would make I'm trying to think of genres here. I want to see Dante in like a racing game. Like I want motorcycles, and like you could pick different characters. You could be like Virgil or any of them, but it's a racing game. But it's And so it's Mario Kart style in the sense that you can like blow each other, shoot guns or like throw your sword at them. But the whole game is like you're racing on like motorcycles or
like
something.
Demons attack you.
And stuff like that. And you're
That'd be awesome.
That'd be pretty sweet. Yeah. I think of like the immediate thought is like the gameplay would be reminiscent of like an updated version of like Final Fantasy VII scene where you're on the motorcycle,
escaping Midgar.
Shinra. Yeah, exactly. That's but I imagine that, but like with like HD graphics and 60 frames per second, and just Devil May Cry style.
Platinum Games, get on it.
Yeah, do that. Here's free ideas for you. That's awesome. 2 free ideas for Nintendo and for Platinum. So cool. That is our DLC for the day. All right, let's go right into it. Talk about fan theories. So, yes, fan theories. The topic is we're just going to be talking about what's so great about fan theories.
Why do they exist?
Why do they exist?
Why do we care?
Why do we care?
Which ones are out there that are kind of cool?
Yeah, which ones are out there that are super lame and stupid? So, to start with, we'll have to kind of define what a fan theory is, though, because many of our listeners might not know what a fan theory is and might not know why Penguin is obsessed with them. So,
what is a fan theory?
Fan theory is, well, it's kind of what it sounds like. It's some piece of pop culture content, usually a story, almost always a story, and the fan theory is just what the players predict. It's sort of a framework or a set of assumptions that the players have, that the consumer has, that they use to kind of analyze or predict what happens in a story. So it could be a story that's already completed, and the fan theory is like, oh, this story is actually about this. So a good example is the movie Annihilation that I talked about. There's a fan theory that it's about cancer. Okay. So it's like just a framework by which you can understand or analyze the story better. Or it could be something like a prediction that hasn't happened yet in a story. So like just go to the Song of Ice and Fire subreddit and just read all of the fan theories about what they think is going to happen at the end of the story. So sometimes it's predictive, sometimes it's just a framework to kind of intellectually engage with something. This is definitely a Penguin topic.
Very much so.
If there's kind of like neutral topics that we both want to talk about. There's a lot of topics that we've already talked about that we're like, oh, that's a Termite topic, because it's usually very linear and
statistical,
grainy, statistical. This is totally the like branching, creative thoughts, type B personality for sure. Yeah. And in the same way that Termite drives me crazy with his talk of trophies, I drive Termite crazy with my talk of fan theories. I'm always just like, did you hear about the fan theory about this? It's amazing. Let me tell you about it. So
too bad I can't go in the PlayStation store and buy something for $1 and exploit your fan theories.
No, but you can annoy me with stupid fan theories, because what I like about fan theories, the reason why I like them, the reason why Penguin digs fan theories, and that why I wanted to talk about them on the podcast, is because I think they're almost always backed with some kind of evidence. Like, the good ones at least, because anyone can sit there and be like, oh, I bet you that Far Cry actually takes place in the brain of a farting dog, and like no one can, and then you could try to string some kind of evidence. But the best fan theories always have a lot of evidence, textual evidence within the story itself that I think are great. You can tell that I want to play Far Cry, or that I'm intrigued by it, because I've mentioned it twice now.
Yeah, red box it, dude.
On the podcast. I should. That's a good idea. Yeah. So so I think they're just the fact that they're always based in evidence. I like them because they really do, even though they are kind of type B, because you have to sort of entertain the possibilities. You have to be okay with the fact that like this is probably not canon. Referring back to our canon episode, this is probably not something that's going to happen, but it's sort of entertaining the possibility, letting the two possibilities exist in your mind as like, okay, well, this is what happened, and then this is sort of a what if kind of scenario, and just being okay with those two simultaneously existing and being okay. Like, I know that you type A's, termites out there, he's like, I don't want it. This one's the real one. Forget the other one. If it doesn't matter if it's not real. Like, whereas my brain, I'm like, oh no, it still matters because it's so cool. I like to talk about it. So it lets me engage sort of that intellectual side of my brain and kind of pull the evidence. I don't really have a lot of fan theories myself that I've come up with, but I do like reading the ones that other people have come up with.
And fleshing that idea out, I actually am intrigued by fan theories that pull you out of the game. That's like, the developer thought this, the publisher was doing this as a result of that. And it's all speculation kind of out of the content itself.
Right.
So like, the Matrix, the Wachowski brothers, what they were thinking or going through. I don't have any specific. I do have the one fan theory that I researched and love. And it was a Smash Brothers one. We'll go into it later.
Yeah.
But that you'll notice when I talk about that, it pulls you out of the game.
Right. It's not about the story. It's not about like the story or the events that take place in the game. It's about kind of like
it's
I was
almost
saying,
like an Easter egg hunt.
That's kind of
which I do with Marvel movies. I always go and look at the Easter eggs and the references to everything else. It's all that cool stuff that might matter.
Yep.
Like when Thor had the Infinity Gauntlet. Right? In the original Thor, well, I didn't know that was like wrong or something. It was like the wrong hand.
Yeah, it was.
And then they retconned it in Thor Ragnarok.
I think it had 5 gems instead of 6.
Okay.
And there
I didn't even realize that, but I thought it was the coolest thing. Like, oh, they're going to do the Infinity stuff, and I know about that, and other people don't. And so it's almost like that kind of stuff I like.
Yeah.
Does that count as fan theory?
It can. We'll get into more into like the do's and don'ts of fan theories and what is and what isn't a fan theory. But it's still the same kind of thing where it's sort of an Easter egg. I mean, Easter eggs and fan theories kind of often go hand in hand because they're meant to be things that you are extrapolating based on details that are hidden for you. That's why I said that's why I brought up it up when I talked about the escape room, is because they're like puzzles.
Yeah.
Like you're always drawing from little clues left for you because you're trying to figure out what the author intended, or because that's almost what it always is you're trying to say, I think this is what the author intended, even if they don't explicitly say it, or if they even come out later and say, no, that's wrong. Like, still, the extrapolation's always there. Like, I think they wrote it this way. Like, it almost always seems intentional when they're presented to you. So
that's what a fan theory is.
That's what a fan theory is.
That's where Penguin is on fan theories. This is where Termite is on fan theories. That's what we've covered.
Yep.
So what's next?
I'll sum it up by saying they're basically conspiracy theories for fiction.
Ooh, that's a good way to define it.
And if you ever hear the term tinfoil, #tinfoil, when referring to things, like if you see that on Reddit, that's what they're usually saying. So the sort of fan theory community has sort of embraced the tinfoil hat idea of it, and so they'll say, yeah, my post is super full of tinfoil right now, but so I just like that. Well, I might use that term. That's what I mean when I use that term, is this is super tinfoil-y. If you hear me say that, that's what I mean. So as I always like to do a little bit of research on these kind of topics to give you guys sort of a framework as to where this started, how this kind of came about, and the first real example of a modern fan theory in pop culture comes from an essay written in 1969 by a guy named Larry Niven. And the essay is titled Man of Steel, Woman of Kleenex.
Oh my.
And it was a essay that he wrote basically talking about, he was trying to scientifically break down, like, okay, well, Superman has relations that men have with women. What would that physically look like? Because he's an alien from the planet Krypton and has superpowers.
Wow.
It's a fan theory because it's a framework by which you're trying to analyze a piece of pop culture that's not explicitly stated in
I don't think there's any of that.
There's nothing in the comics, especially in 1969 when those comics were trying to instill traditional and good values into children. But this fan came out and wrote a detailed scientific breakdown of what this would look like. And I think it's summed up in the title quite well. Man of Steel, Woman of Kleenex.
Yeah.
So it's cited as one of the first examples of fan theories because kind of from then on,
dirty.
People always, people analyze those kinds of things in pop culture. So, again, there's tons of examples. We'll go through them later. I just want to ask real quick, why do you think fan theories matter? Do you think they matter at all? And why do you think they do?
I think they do. The hardest part is, so where fan theories are cool is it's like the conversation around the medium that is in these little circles of friends or on the internet you can read these little blog posts or like some Reddit things, and like there's this creativity thing that's kind of stimulated and happening in the world that's allowing you to approach the content from different angles that you might not have thought about or looked at the original way it's presented to you. I can watch a movie a million times or play a game a bunch of times and never see this. Yeah. And then you come at me with a fan theory and now it's like, but it's not real. It's a fan theory, but now I'm thinking about it. Right, yeah, it gets you to think. It influences it, and like you can look at something in a new light, so it can like add more life to the content. And then the fact that there's community buzz around it and like hype, which I'm all about hype. I love being excited about stuff, nerd things especially. So I think it adds more, kind of like fleshes out the content, fills it up more, and it makes it have a more bigger presence.
I agree.
Than what it can do on its own.
I agree. Yeah, I mean, it allows us to take something as meaningless ultimately as entertainment, as something that, again, it doesn't really... I say that tongue-in-cheek because I have said other times in the podcast that I do think entertainment has a point and purpose in our lives. But tongue-in-cheek, it takes something that's, relatively frivolous, that doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. Your survival is not dependent on entertainment.
Yep. Unless you make it.
Yes. So something relatively meaningless, and it allows you to sort of engage with it critically in a way that you should be doing with like literature and stuff like that. It's kind of our modern form of engaging. It's allowing us to engage with modern stories in the same way that we engage with literature, the same way that you would critically analyze Macbeth or critically analyze Great Expectations, these great works of fiction.
You go back to our first episode, it was our first episode about art, whether or not games are art. There's like this highbrow kind of like expectation of what art is to be in a museum, right? Well, there's the critique of Macbeth. That takes like someone from like has a degree in literature or English. I don't even know what kind of degree you would need. But like to publish something like that in say the Wall Street Journal or like and Time Magazine, to like the critique of Macbeth, and you add your own spin to it.
Or saying like Macbeth is about this. Macbeth is about this psychological thing, or this psychological thing happened to Macbeth. You can kind of do that, except fan theories you can kind of do that on a layman level.
Right, yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It's like now you have the lowbrow version of that, which is kind of like our podcast.
But it still checks off that box, Hey, we did talk about poop in the first episode. We're talking about it now. But yeah, that's I just like that idea that allows us to kind of be intellectual with something that's not necessarily perceived as intellectual. There are some great quotes that I wanted to bring out of an article that we'll link off to that talks a little bit about the history of fan theories and talks about their importance. But there's a great quote that says they quote in the podcast in the article they quote another piece of content that says the PBS Idea channel, and it says the PBS Idea channel posits that fan theories are critical thinking popcorn. I like that idea, critical thinking popcorn. And I like this other quote. They said, the more absurd the theory, the more interesting it is when the theorist actually finds evidence that supports his or her claim. So it's pretty cool. There's a whole subculture that's that is fan theorists. Go to the fan theory subreddit. It's all over the place. So if you're interested in this kind of thing, you can totally research more, and we'll try to point you in the right direction. But at the end of the day, it is mostly just for fun, because these things are fun, and it's fun to get excited about them.
It's fun when someone's like, did you know? And they make this outlandish claim.
Right.
And you're like, no way.
No way, yeah.
And then they're like, well, let me break it down.
Let me break it down
and
for
then
you.
You're
exactly.
like, wow.
Right?
And then by the end of the conversation, they have convinced you that
slightly, or at least that you're thinking about it. Yeah.
You've fleshed it out.
And we'll go ahead and jump into examples, because when you started, kind of explaining about fan theories, and especially when you started talking about the hype, and how, and you also said something along the lines of when a fan theory makes you more interested in a piece of content that wasn't as interesting to begin with. The immediate thought that came to mind is actually my first example. Is we'll talk about the legendary Reddit post that came out a year ago, maybe. And
it was older than that, but it gained popularity.
It really gained traction a few years ago, and it's we'll call it the Darth Jar Jar theory, and it's regarding the Star Wars prequels. To break it down for you, the basic premise of the theory is that Jar Jar Binks, the most reviled character in Star Wars history, was originally written and intended to end up being a Sith Lord. Yeah. Like, he was originally intended to be the primary antagonist of the Star Wars prequels. That sounds ridiculous, but there was tons of evidence from the first movie to support that claim.
And it was like they claimed George Lucas had written the original trilogy 1, 2, and 3 with that in mind. And so episode 1 was done, published, created, and shown in theaters, and as you can go see it right now with that in mind. And it wasn't until the fans' reaction...
They hated Jar Jar so much that he rewrote
it. So episode 2 and episode 3 is Jar Jar's new path and trajectory.
Right, and he was originally supposed to fill the role that Count Dooku filled, Christopher Lee's Count Dooku. And that's why that character, that's one of the pieces of evidence, is that's why that character fell so flat, because it wasn't supposed to be.
Hands down, character. Like the best way a fan theory can affect you is that. Yeah. Because I would rewatch 1 now and not hate Jar Jar Binks.
Right, yeah, no, it makes the character seem so much more interesting because he comes across as, if that fan theory is correct, which there's a lot of evidence supporting it, like you guys gotta look it up. There's things like his movement style in the battle with the Gungans, his movement style is very clearly making it look like he's bumbling around like an idiot, but his movements are very deliberate, and they're in the same style that Drunken Master. There's a video comparing his movement to a Drunken Master style of combat, and the parallels are insane. There are scenes you can see him in the background, like moving his hands, and you can see his mouth muttering, basically doing Jedi mind tricks to people,
and
like manipulating things in the background. It's insane. But the most compelling pieces of evidence are the actor who voiced Jar Jar when this theory came out and started gaining traction. He linked off to the theory in a tweet and said, "Finally, someone gets it."
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, that's pretty compelling evidence. The other thing is that George Lucas structured the Star Wars movies to be like the mythological arc, and in the mythical storytelling, there is always a character that seems insignificant and ends up being of extreme importance. In the original trilogy, that was Yoda. He comes across Yoda. He's this little goblin elf thing that's annoying, and then he ends up being a Jedi Master.
Right.
George Lucas has said that the prequels were supposed to be a dark side reflection of the original trilogy, so they're supposed to hit the same motifs, except be the dark side version of it.
Yeah.
Jar Jar was supposed to be the Yoda character. In fact, they were supposed to have a duel, because Count Dooku and Yoda have a duel in the second movie.
Yeah.
That was supposed to be Jar Jar as a Sith Lord versus Yoda, which would have been so awesome. But just the execution of that character, don't get me wrong, the execution of Jar Jar was bad in the movie. I am not in any way refuting the fact that it was so poorly written.
Yeah.
However, if he had been able to get to that, if he had just included a post-credits teaser or something where Jar Jar, like, drops the act for a second and says something, like, it would have changed the whole trajectory of those movies.
Yeah.
It would have made them so much better. So, George,
George Lucas's fault. Like, he always changes everything constantly. He's never satisfied with it, and using the fan feedback to just ridiculed him, and he wrecked it.
Yeah.
He wrecked it. He changed course. Why?
I know. Some of my other favorite fan theories that I like, I'll make sure you get yours as well.
Yeah.
But there's another one that I really like, and this is one that the fan theory came out before the series was finished, but I still like what the story they attempted to tell, because I do think in some of these cases, the stories that the fans come up with are almost better than the ones that the
like
authors intend, like the Jar Jar Binks one. This one that I love is there was a theory before the Deathly Hallows came out, the Harry Potter book, the 7th Harry Potter book. There was a theory that Neville Longbottom was going to be the chosen one and not Harry Potter. And there's some prophecy that was in the books that applies to both of them. And the theory was that Dumbledore was a genius and made Voldemort think that it was supposed to be Harry Potter, when in reality it was Neville Longbottom the entire time.
Oh, that's fascinating.
Which would have been a really cool twist and a really cool use of the prophecy. And again, people hate it because they're like, well, then what was the point? Why focus the story on Harry Potter at all? I'm like, it doesn't diminish Harry's heroic actions at all. In fact, quite frankly, it makes his heroic actions seem even more valuable, because
he's not actually the chosen one.
He's not actually the chosen
one.
So
he's really Harry Potter.
So everything that he does and all of the heroic things and sacrifices he makes are because it's not tied to any kind of destiny.
Right. Or privilege.
And, like, he still does them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He still acts in a way that's heroic. It's just Dumbledore has successfully tricked the bad guy in thinking that it was the person who it wasn't, and that's why you can still name the whole series Harry Potter. So
right, I love that theory. I remember when it came out. I don't remember the details of it now, but when it was happening, I was like, "That sounds nuts." It would be
it would just have been a cooler ending, I think, than what actually happened. So that one's a fun. So we're probably gonna piss off some Harry Potter fans, but I don't care.
Well, you know.
They shouldn't be fans.
Call us out. Interact with us on Reddit, Facebook, Twitter. Hey.
It's coming up in the middle of episodes now.
Go find us and yell at us if you hate this.
Awesome. Do you want to hit yours? Well,
yeah. So I did some research, given fan theories are not my forte. So I wanted to find some cool video game related ones, knowing that there were some movie ones that we were going to talk about tonight. So to mix it up, Smash Brothers. The creator, his last name is Sakurai. I don't remember his first name. There's 4 Smash Bros. Games in the main line of them, and the 5th one is coming out soon. I can't wait! Get hyped! So they analyzed the introductions to the games, like the title screens and the stories.
Yeah,
like every one of them has a single player component, and they've mapped out, like, the first game for N64 shows a child's playroom and toys. And and we learn early on that Master Hand is that kid. And Nintendo actually confirmed that Smash Brothers, the characters are toys.
Okay,
they're fighting each other, so they're not the actual characters fighting.
It's basically like
toys.
the story of Smash Brothers is that a kid is playing with the toys,
right?
In his
and Nintendo did
room.
Confirm that.
Okay.
So the fan theory is that kid is Sakurai.
Sakurai,
so
the creator.
At the very beginning, the very first one, he took his childhood memories of playing this. He was 19 when he made the first Kirby game.
Oh, okay.
So he grew up playing Nintendo.
Yeah.
So the first Smash Brothers is that child and that wonder and that like innocent kind of like play imagination playing with his toys. And then the second one came out, which was Melee, and they introduced Crazy Hand.
Yeah.
When he started, like, he was like a preteen, and he learned how to like, he was struggling with the Crazy Hand is kind of the antithesis of Master Hand. Like,
right.
it's the madness behind it all, and like the craziness of dealing with the pressure of everyone, and like having to like rein this in. But also, and this is the best one, the third one, Smash Brawl for Wii. The last boss is called Taboo, and it's spelled differently.
Oh.
And it's because now he's at the adult stage, and it's taboo for adults to play with toys.
Play with toys. Oh,
and
interesting.
so, like, there's the whole subspace emissary, and it was like this whole world of and they like mirror society and their pressure coming back at him for being an adult, still dabbling with toys. And then in the fourth game, they introduced, I don't remember his name. It was like black, like, Master Hand turned into Crazy Hand, turned into this like crazy sword wielding monster form shape thing, and that was kind of like his. He even made a comment, and they quote it that he was like he felt chained to this. This is now like a life burden, and he's like 40 years old now, and he's still making Smash Brothers, and like he never intended this to happen. He actually like left the Kirby studio to move on to other things because they kept pressuring him to make sequels, and he didn't want to make them. And so, but he still loves and cherishes what he has created. And so it's like this massive fight. And then it finally ends where like he gives in. And so like the very last boss of Wii U version is the ball. And it's all quiet. All the music stops. It's like you finally got past Master Hand, Crazy Hand, and that last black
amorphous blob. Yeah,
right. And then it's just the ball. It kind of looks like the Smash Ball, and like resembles the colors and stuff. But it's quiet. Music stops. It's serene. The ball doesn't fight you back. It's limp, and you smack it, and it comes back to you. And so it's the idea that Sakurai just gave in. Like he's finally not fighting it anymore, and he is just. I'm going to make this stuff for you. And so like it's really, really cool. You should look this up. This fan theory.
I'm sold. You've already got me. I'm sold. I'm into it.
Yeah. And it's like each stage of his life from childhood to adulthood, and now he's going to make 5.
Yeah, he's going to make 5, so I wonder what kind of crazy... Yeah.
And like it's definitely there.
He's going to embrace it. And it's going to be him. You're going to fight him and be like, I am the boss! I am the god of the Super Smash Brothers!
Yeah.
I'm thrilled. That's it.
It'd be really cool.
If it's not that, that's my fan theory right there. That's who it's going to be. It's going to be Sakurai himself.
I highly recommend... The YouTube video that I learned all that from was like 10 minutes.
Oh, nice.
They map it out really well with lots of...
Do you have a link? We'll have to link off to it.
Yeah, I'll link off to it.
Okay, cool. We'll put it in the footnotes. Okay, cool. That's awesome. Yeah, most of mine are all like... Most of mine are not video games, they're TV shows or movies. But there is another one that was a fan theory that came out before the movie ended, the series ended. And it's about The Matrix. And it came out after The Matrix Reloaded. And you remember at the end of The Matrix Reloaded when, like, did you watch The Matrix series?
Yeah, I loved it.
All right, yeah.
I was obsessed with them.
Okay, yeah. So you know at the end of the second movie how, like, he's in the real world and he, like, reaches his hand out at one point and stops the machines from attacking them, like, shorts them out.
Yep.
And everyone's like, what that's all about?
Yeah.
And I don't even remember what the actual explanation was, but this fan theory is amazing. The fan theory basically said that the real world, quote unquote, was actually another layer of simulation, and that Neo was actually an AI. And that the levels of simulation, the whole unfolding of the Matrix was a simulation that was meant to teach AI to empathize with humans.
Wow.
So it was like, there's like 3, the real world was a bunch of people, you know, like at a computer, like humans that were teaching AI how to empathize with them so that they don't kill them. So it's like,
yeah, this is like when Neo was walking around with Trinity and like in this cave, there was that scene with the big party and like the machines were coming in real life too.
And he like stopped them and made them, shorted them out.
Right.
Yeah, the theory was that it's like, he realized, that's the moment where he realizes that he's actually a machine in a simulation. So it'd kind of be kind of Inception-y where it's like a simulation inside of a simulation.
Oh, yeah.
But it was, again, the flip was that like, oh no, Neo was a machine the entire time that was made to think he was a human so that he could empathize with humans. I thought that was an amazing...
See, now I want to rewatch him.
I know, yeah.
That, like,
now,
mentality.
Again, that's not how it ended, obviously. The Matrix Revolutions or whatever ended really stupidly, but...
That was a bad movie.
It was
so bad.
But, like, if you go back and watch the first and second ones with that theory in mind, it's really, really intriguing. So that was one I really wanted to bring up. And then the last two I had just, as kind of my favorite fan theories. I'm a huge a Song of Ice and Fire / Game of Thrones fan, and there's 2 really interesting theories about how that's going to end. And one of them, they can go hand in hand too. It could be both. One of them though is that so there's this prophecy about Azor Ahai. He's the prince who was promised. He's supposed to come wielding a sword called Lightbringer and save the day from the White Walkers. Blah 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 blah. There's a theory. There's tons of theories about who that is. The most popular being Jon Snow or some kind of combination of Jon Snow and Daenerys. There's a theory that it's actually Jaime Lannister. So this character who we hated in season 1 and now has kind of grown on us.
Yeah.
There's a theory that the word Lightbringer could be translated. The High Valyrian word for Lightbringer could be translated. Everyone thinks it's a sword. It could be translated though Golden Hand. And there's a character who he literally has a golden hand. Yep. There's all these theories as to how he becomes Azor Ahai.
Interesting.
He has to try to temper the sword in water. He has to try to temper the sword in a lion, and he has to try to temper the sword in his love before he forges it, like his true love. And so there's all these theories about who represents all of those things, but it's really cool. The other theory of like who is who, there's this character called the Night's King, at least in the show. It's not in the book, but in the show. In the book, it's a little bit different. We're not sure how that's going to play out.
Yeah.
But in the book, there's a character named the Night's King, and he's the leader of the White Walkers. There's a theory that he's Bran, the character who was pushed out of the window at the beginning of the series. And it's mostly because, like, if you look at their costumes, they're very similar. And his face even kind of looks like Bran's, like a twisted, corrupted version of Bran's. Yeah. So there's a theory that essentially, it rests on the idea that the power of warging, where you can take control of an animal, we've already seen that, like, Bran can use it to take control of people. Yep. There's a theory that
Hodor,
the resurrection, the whites, the undead, the army of the undead is being controlled by warging. That is warging. He's warging into the corpses. And so that's how he somehow goes back in time. We've already seen that he can essentially time travel. So the theory is that he goes back in time trying to stop the Night's King, ends up becoming the Night's King. And
that's cool.
And that's how he can raise, like, that's how they have their powers in the first place. So.
And that makes me want to go back and watch the seasons where they interact. Because Bran was on the other side of the wall, and spoiler alert, and like interacted with the Night's King. So I want to see how that interaction plays out.
Yep, exactly, because it's really interesting. So those are some of them.
Interacting with himself.
Yeah. So that's how he knows he's there, because there's that scene where he's like in a vision, like seeing with the crows, and the Night's King like, looks at him and like brands him. Like that's the theory is that he knows he's there because he can also green see.
One more season left.
Ooh, crazy. So these will all be revealed.
No, everything.
Cool. So, fan theories, part of the idea of fan theories is, like I've said, a lot of these fan theories are theories that were meant to predict the outcome of stories, but a lot of them, as you can tell, I've already talked about, are ones that happened and then the stories ended and that wasn't them. So they still kind of count as fan theories. There's a lot of fan theories that ended up being confirmed as, like, the fans guessed correctly. Yeah. And so the fan theory community kind of doesn't credit those as fan, because they say, well, if it's confirmed, it's no longer a fan theory. Right. And so I don't disagree with that, but I did want to talk about it because it's always awesome when the fans get it right. Yeah. When they pull the evidence and it's verified by the creators that they were correct, either through the events of the story itself or because they've come out later and said that's what they intended. So I wanted to talk about a few examples of the fan theories that were accurately predicted. So you had brought up Smash Bros. Earlier.
Right. So when I said that the toys theory was confirmed, that was one of them. It was a fan theory at first that the Master Hand was playing with the Smash Brothers toys, and then in Melee they were trophy-like things with a more grown-up hand building up into that. That Nintendo finally did come out and say that's what that was. So it wasn't a fan theory anymore. What was the actual fan theory regarding Zelda Ocarina of Time? Because Hyrule Historia confirmed the timeline.
It confirmed the actual fan theory was that the games were connected and that the timeline split in Ocarina of Time. Okay. So that was what the actual fan theory was. Now, the details of it, where games fit into the theories, there were guesses, but they weren't necessarily correctly guessed.
But where they nailed it was the fact
where they nailed it was that there was a split timeline. Exactly. Okay. So there was, at no point did Nintendo ever confirm that the games were connected. They were meant to be or not meant to, I don't know, but they were
always like legends.
They were always exactly presented as these separate, kind of like Final Fantasy. They were presented as separate stories that just had the same characters in them.
Final Fantasy does not.
Final Fantasy does not. Yes,
listen. But each Final Fantasy is its own contained game from beginning.
And that's what Legend of Zelda's games were presented as. But they
all contain Link.
There were obvious connections between them, and there were obvious games referencing one another. So the fans kind of pieced all that evidence together and said, "Oh, these seem like they take place in the same universe, but how can that be?" they came up with this idea that, in Ocarina of Time, you go back in time at the end of the game, back to the beginning of the game, and then stop Ganondorf from getting the Triforce.
Mm-hmm.
But that would result in 2 timelines. One that took place, the events where, everything happened, Ganondorf got the Triforce or the Triforce of Power.
Link was an adult.
Link was an adult, and so that timeline keeps going. Right. Like, it doesn't erase. But then a new timeline started because he went back and stopped it. So then 2 separate simultaneous timelines took place. So the fans were like, oh, this clearly makes sense. So that was a fan theory. And so then it was confirmed by Hyrule Historia. They actually added that a 3rd timeline took place where Link died. I didn't like the fact that they added a 3rd.
Yeah, it was kind of weird. It's like, Link fails at the end.
Yeah, because Link doesn't
don't really
fail.
Experience
that.
Yeah,
at no point do you experience that, exactly.
If you die in the game, it's game over.
Exactly, yeah. And then you just start over again. Or start at your last save point. Yeah. I didn't like that they added a 3rd timeline in there, but it's okay. Weird. That's what they chose to do. That is canon now.
Yeah,
but
so you have to deal with it.
You have to
whether you like it or not.
Yeah, so that was another video game one that was confirmed, though. At least the idea that there were multiple timelines. The other notable ones, talking about non-video game related ones, we had brought up A Song of Ice and Fire, so I will bring up R and L equals J, which, if you don't want spoilers of Game of Thrones, then skip ahead 2 minutes or something. The theory R and L equals J stands for Rihanna.
Wow.
Yeah, Rihanna's in the series. Yeah, George R. R. Martin's a huge fan. Sorry.
So is James Cameron.
Rhaegar Targaryen plus Lyanna Stark equals Jon Snow was the theory. So R plus L equals J. And it wasn't necessarily confirmed in the book series yet because we haven't gotten there, but the show more or less confirmed it for the book series because the show has the creators of the show have the outline, and that was such a major beat in the story that we're like, oh, it's almost guaranteed. But this theory came out 3 books in, and people have been talking about R and L equals J for years now, and there is evidence aplenty. Just I could list on and on all the supporting evidence that supports that Jon Snow's parentage is a combination of his father's sister, and this reigning king, which makes Daenerys his love interest, his aunt, but we won't get into that. That's a whole different podcast.
Weird, but it is confirmed.
But it's confirmed. It's practically confirmed. There's another one that I really love, and there was a theory that Stan Lee in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the creator of the Marvel comics, there's a theory that he was a Watcher because he kept showing up in all these movies as cameos.
Right.
And a Watcher in the Marvel Cinematic Universe are these beings that observe everything that happens in the Marvel universe, and they have roles to play in some of the comics, but they hadn't shown up in the movies yet. In the Guardians of the Galaxy 2, they confirmed Stan Lee's sitting there with some beings who are clearly Watchers.
Oh wow!
And he's talking to them about.
Cool.
He's and then I showed up and I was a pizza guy, and then I was a mailman delivery or something like that. So it was 100% confirmed that he was a Watcher.
Which movie was that?
Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
I had to go back and check that out.
You have to check it out. It's really, it's funny, but also because when I saw it, I was like, yeah, there's a theory about this, which is great. And then another one that I really love and want to just hit as my last kind of confirmed fan theory, when Disney's Frozen came out, there was a theory that came out after that because, we know in Frozen that the parents shipwreck. So Elsa and Anna's parents leave at the beginning of the story, and then they get shipwrecked somewhere, and we're led to believe that they died. Well, there's a theory that came out later that, oh no, those parents shipwrecked and then ended up in an island where they gave birth to a baby boy who grew up to be Tarzan. So and then the creators came out and they confirmed that was their intention, was to connect. There were all these connections between Tarzan and
That's
Frozen.
Crazy.
Yeah. There's also the same ship. The ship design, you see the ship in Frozen, you see it disappear under the waves. That same ship sinks, and that ship appears in The Little Mermaid. So that ship was designed after the ship in The Little Mermaid, because it was intended to show that those 3 movies are all connected.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
So crazy. And then one final connection between those movies.
Peter Pan.
No, Tangled. Rapunzel literally shows up. You can see Rapunzel and Flynn Rider in a still of Frozen.
Really?
Yeah,
Where's
they show up for the coronation, I think.
Oh, she's
show up
there.
She's just there. You see in the background, ew, it's her after her hair and everything. So she's just got her brown hair cut
Wow.
Yeah. So like
That's
all of those
crazy.
Disney. So of course there's a unified Disney fan theory.
Yeah.
Out there, of course, but the ones that we know are for sure confirmed are Tangled, Frozen, Tarzan, and Little Mermaid. All exist in
Dang.
the same universe.
Sounds like Kingdom Hearts.
Right?
Let's go.
Let's do it. Yeah, because
Kingdom Hearts
clearly
3.
they're all connected to Final Fantasy as well.
Yes.
So that's awesome. Cool. So I just wanted one final question I had is, how do you think video game fan theories differ from other forms of pop culture?
Video games come out, big video game releases that garnish these kinds of fan theories come out 4 times a year.
Mm-hmm.
Books come out like crazy, but when there is a series of books, it's usually like a couple of years between each one.
Mm-hmm.
Same with movies. Each, like, if there's a series of something like The Matrix or the Marvel movies, right? We get 3 Marvel movies per year, which is kind of in line with games.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say video games are almost like spread out. Like, they're everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And each game is usually in different genres, different types, I mean, there's so many different stories happening in video games that the fan theories are going to be, I don't know, like, you have 3 to 5 years between the same franchise. So, like, when Zelda comes out, 3 to 5 years, you'll get another one. Yeah. When Assassin's Creed comes out, sometimes they're annualized where they come out every single year, but, like, Assassin's Creed Origin came out, they took a year off, so it was 2 years between that one. Yeah. But then you have, like, 2 years to formulate this crazy, fleshed-out fan theory where, like, movies are constant, books are a little bit more constant, but maybe books line up with games.
It's been, like, it's coming up on like 7 years, I think, since the last Game of Thrones or Song of Ice and Fire book. Nuts. So sometimes authors can pump them out. Other times we're waiting for years.
But what I wanted to highlight was, like, it seems like video game fan theories, if there's not an annualized franchise, which is 90% of all the games, they don't have a lot of, like, content to derive from. Yeah. Like, you can't, like, go make a fan theory on a one-hit game, like a way out. Yeah. Because it's going to come out once, it'll go away. Yeah. Like, it'll kind of dissolve into the ether of history, and then you'll be picking up the next best game. Yeah.
The biggest thing I see with video game fan theories, and I would count this, is what video games have that movies, books, television don't, is they have gameplay to also predict. So if they announce, they've already announced Metroid 4. Or Smash Bros. Is probably a better one. You know, for Smash Bros. 5, Smash Bros. 6, whatever they're numbering it.
It would be 5 if it's a new one.
I had only read that, I had read somewhere that they count the 3DS and the Wii U versions as separate.
Really?
So I read that it's 3DS is Smash 4 and the Wii U is Smash 5.
That's weird.
I don't like it either. Yeah. It feels wrong to say Smash 6. So I'm going to say Smash 5 instead. Yeah. When I mean is Smash for the Switch. We can predict and we can come up with theories as to what the roster will look like. What the gameplay will look like, whether it will include a campaign or like a story mode or not, you know. And so you can't really do that with movies, but I think those are kind of less appreciated fan theories but it is. It's like we are theorizing what will be present in the game. You see it a lot with like World of Warcraft. The new for each new expansion. There's all of this theory crafting. It's like what will be the content, like what will be the raids, where will they take place, what will the bosses be like.
Yeah, there's a lot more actually. So it's like you might not be able to get as much content from non-annualized franchises, but you could still get more as far as gameplay mechanics.
Yeah, because even when they're not announced, we know that there's going to be another Warcraft expansion after Battle for Azeroth.
No one predicted Metroid Prime 1 would have been a first-person shooter.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, there's this rumored Metroid game coming out for a GameCube. We haven't seen one since Super Metroid.
We'll assume it's a platformer,
it's going to be a side-scrolling, like, 2D, 3D platform. No, it was a first-person shooter, blew everyone's mind, and it was so good.
But you can also take evidence from things like, they're doing a Spyro remaster. Are they maybe intending to do a Spyro 4? Like, there's... I'm sure there's
rumors about a new Crash.
Yeah,
right
exactly.
Now, it's is there a new Crash? We don't know.
So
yes, I hope so.
I would agree that those I would consider those fan theories. Yeah, but they're more about gameplay than actual story. Though that story still might come into play. Like, what will the story be like and stuff like that. But so, like, Metroid's another great example. Metroid 4. Like,
is it going to be a first-person
what's
shooter?
What's the story going to be like? Yeah, so it's interesting.
Right. Is it going to be cel shaded?
Cool.
They did that with Wind Waker. Everyone flipped out when they saw Wind Waker for the first time. It wasn't the tech demo.
Yeah.
And everyone speculated the tech demo was the new Zelda, right? That's the fan theory. And then Wind Waker was shown. I was one of the only kids that was extremely excited about that.
I was mad, but then when I played it, I was like, well, this is really fun. Yeah. I really enjoyed it. Cool. Well, I want to finish off by just talking about a couple more since I did talk so much about movie and television fan theories. I wanted to highlight a couple of great fan theories in video games since we are a video game podcast.
Did you put the companion cubes note?
I did.
Because I didn't see that the first time, and I did see that. I wanted to talk about it. Now I see it.
Yep.
Apparently in Portal, the companion cube is filled with either dead bodies or people that might be alive.
Yep.
And there's one reference in there from GLaDOS saying, if the cube talks, ignore
Please
it.
ignore it.
Yeah.
But
I was like, oh, that's so dark.
Yeah, the theory is that you have this little box that you're supposed to use for solving some of the puzzles in Portal, and it's just got a little heart shape on it, and GLaDOS, the computer that's talking to you the entire game trying to kill you, it makes some offhanded remarks about how, you have to kill your friend, the companion cube, but, you're meant to interpret that as it's just an inanimate object that you're supposed to form a bond with. But no, there's a fan theory that it's full of people, or full of a person, that there's someone in there that's gonna try to cry for help and can't, and you're murdering them.
Burn them to death.
You murder them and use them. Yeah, it's pretty dark. I love it though. The other theory we have talked about on the podcast before, but I really, again, it's been 30 some episodes since we talked about it, so I wanted to bring it back up, and I want you guys to research it because it's amazing.
So
it is my favorite fan theory. Might be my favorite fan theory of any content of all time. It is the Majora's Mask theory that Link is experiencing the 5 stages of grief, either as a result of his own death or as a result of Navi disappearing from his life forever from Ocarina of Time. One way or another, the theory is that the game is meant to walk you through the 5 stages of grief, which are denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. But those motifs are reflected throughout the entire game, and it's so good. So look that one up. We'll maybe try to find a link to it.
We can almost do an entire episode just a deep dive on that.
Majora's Mask. Yeah, no, that'd be great. But other than that, yeah, we're going to link off to a couple things. I've got another article on there from Cracked about 6 insane fan theories. Actually, that one's in there. So you can read about it there. There's some other ones that are really interesting in that article. There's another article I mentioned earlier from geeks.media, which is the history of fan theories, and they talk about this kind of really critically analyze what fan theories are and what the impact they've had on culture. And there's another one. It's what would Bale do is the website. Sorry for the weird website. It's totally safe. But it's what we talk about when we talk about fan theories. It's where I kind of really pulled a lot of my definition of fan theories from it. Yeah. And it breaks down kind of what fan theorists kind of determine, what are good fan theories, what are bad fan theories. Anything that's it was all a dream is usually considered a bad fan theory. So, it's a really good article. I would recommend reading all 3 of those pieces that we will link off to. We'll try to link off to the one you talked about, the Smash Bros. One.
From Game Rant.
Awesome. Perfect. And other than that, guys, you know where to find us. Please let us know what you think. What are your favorite fan theories? I love hearing about new fan theories that I haven't heard about before. If you think this fan theory stuff is a total waste of time and nonsense, like our good friend Nathan, shout out, does,
I'm almost there.
Let us know as well. Yeah. Do you want to tell them where the good people of the internet can find us? Even though you said it.
Podsmash.com. We said it earlier this episode, but that's our landing site. You can find us all there. Links to Google Play and iTunes. Please give us a review so we can bubble up to the top and be recommended for more exposure.
Yeah, and again, you can also find us on Instagram. That's where we post a lot of stuff throughout the week. It's completely additional content that
costs just as much as a podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely nothing.
But if you can get your little taste of Penguin and Termite every day, just if you see a post on Instagram of ours that you like, just make sure to like it, share it, and send us a comment of some kind. We'd love to hear from you. So tell us about what you want to hear from the podcast, whether it's new topics or if you have just a really cool topic or thing you want to discuss, we might reach out to you and have you on to tell us about it.
The entire review bonus content episode for Ready Player One was inspired by feedback.
Yeah, exactly.
The reason I did that was I executed it, and we did it because someone
asked for it. Yep.
We want a review episode. I'm like, done.
Absolutely.
That's going to happen.
So, and we're planning to do more because people have asked for more little bonus content episodes. So you will be hearing from us more frequently, but until then, have a great week, y'all.
See you later.